So let's talk about this, the opening phrase of this Beethoven Sonata, Opus 13, second movement. We did some of this in class, but I'll just talk through it again. So if you want to practice, you can pause the video and do the analysis. As always, you need to know what clef you're in when you're doing this, and you might be led astray by the fact that this looks like a standard grand staff right here, but then it tells you that the piano is playing in the bass clef. I don't know if you know this, but on the piano, both hands can play down low sometimes. It's kind of crazy. So as we go through, the left hand is in the bass clef all the way up to here, and that's really as far as we're going. So we're reading all bass clef. So with this key signature, we're either in A flat major or F minor. We start on an A flat chord, we end A flat. I see it goes 5-1 right here, so this looks like it's clearly A flat major. We look here, these notes form an A flat major chord, which is 1. Right here I see E, G, B flat, D flat. That's an E flat 7 chord with D flat in the bass. E flat is 5, this is a 5-7 chord in the key of A flat, and with a D flat in the bass, it's a 4-2. Okay, it's third inversion. And you remember dominant 7th chord with the 7th in the bass, the 7th resolves down. We would expect that to resolve to a 1-6. And if we check, this is an A flat major chord with C in the bass, so it is indeed a 1-6 chord. And right here, I still see this E sustaining in this middle voice, E, B flat, D flat, and there's a G down here, so once again, E flat 7. It's a 5-7 chord again, this time with G in the bass. That makes it first inversion, so it's a 5-6-5. And when we have a 5-7 chord, the third of that chord is a leading tone, resolves up. We'd expect that to go to a root position 1, which is what it does. All right, so this opening section right here essentially goes 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. But it doesn't just go 1, 5-7 root position, 1, 5-7, 1, all in root position. It is inverting the chords so that we get this nice melody in the bass. Do, fa, mi, ti, do. So now we've been going along 1 chord per beat, and now the chords speed up, 2 chords per beat. There's an acceleration of the harmonic rhythm. This frequently happens as we move into the end of a phrase, a cadence. All right. If you look at this melody, you can see that this kind of flows through to here. This is our longest note so far. This chord sustains for the full measure. Right. So this has, set up 1, 5, 1, 5, and then motion into the 5th scale degree that sustains for the measure. All right, we know this is heading to the 5 chord. That's what this is, E flat major chord. So let's see how we get there. With this G in the bass, we've got E flat, G, and B flat. That's just an E flat major triad. There's no 7th on it. With the G in the bass, that is 5, 6. That's passing through to F in the bass, F, A flat, C. That's an F minor chord. That's the 6th chord in the key of A flat. And now we repeat the F, but we have some notes moving. We have this A flat going up to B flat and the C stepping up to D. So this is giving us B flat, D, F, A flat. This is a chromatically altered chord. B flat, D, F is a major triad. B flat to A flat is a minor 7th. So this is a B flat 7 chord. Okay. I'm just writing these here just to kind of take down what I'm saying just to have a visual representation of what I'm talking about. When you're doing an analysis, you should try to not do this. Just kind of do this in your head and convert it to the Roman numerals directly. I'm just doing it here just to give you a little visual support for what we're talking about. All right, this is a B flat 7 chord. It's a chromatically altered chord. Okay, so here's how we figure this out. First question, is it chromatically altered? Yes. Does it form a major triad with a minor 7th? Yes, it's B flat, D, F, and it's A flat. All right, that's a major triad with a minor 7th. That means it's a secondary dominant. It's 5 of something. With the F in the bass, that's the 5th of the chord, so this is a 5, 4, 3 of something. So we want to look at the root of this chord, B flat. B flat is 5 in what key? B flat is 5 in the key of E flat, and E flat in the key of A flat is the 5 chord. Okay. Another way to think of this is to ask yourself, in the key of A flat, what is B flat? B flat is 2. And if you think of the diatonic circle of fifths progression, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, in that progression, 2 goes to 5. So the 2 chord made into a secondary dominant will want to go to the next chord in that chain. So 2, which goes to 5, becomes a 5 of 5. And then that takes us to our 5 chord. Okay. Really great expressive note right here with this E natural against the E flat in the bass, passing through up to F in the next chord. If the piece just ended right here and without the E natural, we might expect this to go back to A flat in the next measure because we've arrived on the 5 chord. It's a half cadence. And go on, we might expect it to go to 1 and then maybe repeat the progression and come around and go 5, 1 at the end the second time. Instead, these notes expand out. E flat goes to E and up to F, and this E flat steps down to D flat. That gives us an interesting chord right here. Okay, so we've got D flat in the bass. I see G, B flat, and F. That is a G, B flat, D flat, F chord. Okay, so G, B flat, D flat is a diminished triad, and G to F is a minor 7th. This is a G half diminished 7 chord. What is G in the key of A flat? This is 7th note of the scale. This is the 7 half diminished 7th chord, and with a D flat in the bass, it's G, B flat, D flat, F. That's the 5th of the chord. So this is 7 diminished 4, 3, and that's just of the key. That's the diatonic leading tone, half diminished 7th chord. Now something interesting happens right here. Up here we had E flat stepping up to E natural and back up to F. And this F is acting like a neighbor note to E flat. In fact, you can see that it resolves back down to E flat right here. Okay. But before it does that, it leaps down to B flat and walks up. All right, so I've talked about this a number of times, how when a melody leaps, it's not really a leap. We're just switching to a different voice in the harmonic texture, the linear contrapuntal texture of the harmony. Okay, so we had a B flat here in this inner voice, and this F actually just leaps down to that B flat. So this B flat, this F actually needs to go to E flat. There's no E flat in this chord, but there's an E. So this F actually is resolved in this voice right here. And then that voice continues on, and this steps back up to double the E flat right here. Okay. Anyways, this spot right here, this is an E flat, G, B flat, D flat chord. That's E flat 7. With the D flat in the bass, that makes that a 5, 4, 2. And do you remember how in the 4-2, that means the 7th is in the bass? It's going to step down and usually resolve to a 1-6, typically resolve to a 1-6. And we can see that that's what happened. It's A flat, C, E flat. All right, so once again, we get this sort of radical leap right here from E flat down to A flat. And do you see how this A flat was, sorry, to A natural. This A flat was in the middle voice here, middle of these three voices. And this A flat connects to this A natural. So this E flat leaps down to this voice and moves to A natural. And the E flat itself, again, gets picked up down here. That appears as if from nowhere. It's reaching under. And then this E flat resolves down to D flat right here. We leap back up to get that. And the A natural, we'd expect to resolve up to B flat, which it does right there. Okay. Some people who don't know much about this kind of harmony might think this is a reach, and but it's exactly what's happening here. We're leaping between different voices of the texture. Okay, so let's fill in the details of these chords. This was an A flat chord. Right here, we get F, A, C, E flat. This is F7. It's root position. This is a major triad with a minor seventh. It's chromatically altered, so this is 5/7 of something. F7 in the key of A flat is the 6th note of the scale. We can think 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2. So this is 5/7 of 2. That's one way to think of it. You could also think F is 5 in the key of B flat. B flat is 2 in the key of A flat, and you get the same answer. We'd expect this to go to a 2 chord, which is a B flat minor chord, and that's exactly what we get right here. B flat, D, F, B flat minor, that's our 2 chord in root position. And then right here we have E flat in the bass. I see D flat sustaining, and we need to kind of rule out the C and the A flat. And the rest of the notes here, minus the A flat and the C, give us E flat, G, B flat, D flat. Here's our nice big E flat 7 chord. That's a 5/7. And on the downbeat of the next measure, this moves to A flat in the bass. We'd expect this to go to 1. The upper notes are the notes of the previous chord. They just stick around too long, and we finally resolve right here. So these are suspensions from the previous chord, and then they resolve. So what's happening right here is, imagine we've got, I can use multiple colors here. This is very high tech. Okay, so we've got, let's say 5 is magenta right here. Okay, and 5 is magenta. Okay, and then the bass switches to 1 right here and continues with 1. Okay, so this is 5. But the upper voice here, the 5 overlaps into the next beat. And then it moves to the 1 chord right here. Right, so there's this little spot in the middle where we have a clash, right? It's like the right hand is still in 5, but the left hand has moved to 1. In this style of music, we get a lot of our cues as to what key we're in, what chord we're in, etc. from the bass. So we're going to prioritize and say this is a 1 chord with the right hand holding onto the 5 too long, and then it finally resolves. So it's a grouping of suspensions here. All right, so fairly simple progression. We have a few, we have two secondary dominants and inversions of chords and so on. This is kind of a quick and dirty analysis. I'm planning to do a much deeper analysis of this, really digging into the voice leading here. But for now, for the purposes of preparing for a final exam in which you have to analyze secondary dominants, this is where I will leave it for now. See you in the next one.